Bonjour. Today we have Dennis White. He's from the Oreilles Reservation. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself before you tell us about your art form?
Mezinaanikwad na kasayan Ojibwe mo Midashiko and Yigit was Dennis White Chaganashi mo. I've been fortunate enough to spend the last 10 or so years of my life here working at the LCL College. I'm really, I still call it a college, whether it's a university or a community college. And I'm really happy that I can still provide whatever I know, whatever I learned in my life to people. And believe it or not, some people listen also. So I'm always surprised when I get to a place and all of a sudden, here we know most of the people here, which is after a while in your life, you get to know a lot of people and they know you. So I'm really glad that I can still be here and still contribute to my knowledge for people. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy the classroom, no matter how big or how small. It's always a pleasure to be able to be someplace where people will. Their job is to listen to you. Like what other place in the world has a job where you go there and people are supposed to listen to you. Like it's really great to be still teaching and still enjoying teaching and still trying to reach out to everybody, like young people, old people, young, and everything in between. So I'm really happy that I can still be here and contribute to part of my life. This part of my life. So, it was crazy. One time I was at a conference and they were on reading or teaching, and the teacher had a book to give away at the end. She said, "Oh, look at this book out here, one of our books that my husband and I wrote, and that we're going to give to somebody who's been teaching the longest." So somebody said, "Oh, I've been teaching 17 years. I've been teaching, just since 8 months ago." And it came to me and I said, "Well, I graduated from college in 1969. And a week after I graduated, I was teaching." So it's like nobody wanted to compete with teaching at 16. In 1969, that's when I started. So it's like, actually, I probably started before. But so it's been a while since most of that time since then, I've been a teacher. And a couple of times I've been a student, and another time I've been an engineer. I don't know how I got to be an engineer, but you can imagine driving a big train or something. But it was actually writing a wild software at Bell Laboratory somewhere.
Nice.
That was interesting, but I couldn't stay there. We couldn't stay there. But so it's a distance from where we're supposed to be, Suburbs of Chicago are nice. Even going into uptown Chicago is nice. You a lot of Native people live in uptown Chicago. That's where we used to go a lot of times to hide out there. So it was really good when we got to come home and be a part of what was happening here on the reservation since then. And I'm really happy that I can be here today and you're not going to be. And so I don't know if there's anything else you want to.
So how did you get into all of this if you were an engineer, and how did you have time for something like this?
You just make time. All this to me is just the mathematics of art and the art of mathematics. You look at some basic design or make up a design, and it all turns out that it's all full of triangles and parallelograms, all full of symmetry and divisibility, and it's all full of all of these things that are fill our lives. We don't even really realize that one of the biggest things that little kids have to do is make change from a dollar so they don't get cheated every time. So who teaches them how to do that? Well, I got taught by the storekeeper down the way, and she taught her how to count your change. You have to keep track of money. You're supposed to. I don't like keeping track of money that much, but I do. So any design that I have here is I plan out all my designs, and I count the threads and make sure that one number divides another number. And I brought this into my work into the 3rd grade LCO school one time, the 5th grade, and we had to make up designs that the kids had to make up designs for their weaving, and they had to know divisibility. Divisibility is a big topic, and everybody should know what numbers divide other numbers. When I see the numbers, I see what's known as the fundamental theorem of arithmetic, where every number can be expressed uniquely as a product of primes. It's only one way to do that. That's what unique means. So every number is unique because it has that property. So we use that to figure out how to make the pattern. So one of my weavings might have 96 warp threads in it, and 96 is a nice number because it's 16 times 6. 16 is 2 to the 4th, and another 6 is 2 and 3. There's a whole bunch of numbers you can divide into that.
What size of a bag would be 96?
I brought it along probably.
Sorry, it's a bad question. That's okay.
Yeah, you can. It's in that bag right here in the black bag.
Are you self-taught, or did somebody teach you how to do this, or did you
I'm
just
self-taught. I was given a stash a long time ago at a big jump ceremony where part of the big drum is where they give things away. That's a hard thing for some part of society to understand, is you go there to give stuff away. Don't you go there to gather things and to accumulate things? Well, in our society, that's not how it really, you don't earn your graces by accumulating things. So some people in the world do. But this here is a bag that has 96 warp threads.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And the warp threads are this pair of threads here. He needs 2 in a pair to start this out. And this design in the front here looks like a snowflake. It's 16 strands long to repeat itself. 16. Wow, why is it 16? Well, because it's 2 to the 6, 2 to the 4, So it turns out that those 16 strands divide into 96. They have to, or else it won't fit on there.
Yeah.
And so I have a little worksheet for kids in 5th grade or 7th grade that I work with, that you have to make up a design. It has to fit into your warp pairs. And they looked at me, warp pairs, dividing, what? Because I didn't know I was in math class. I said, you're always in math class. And so they made up these designs that they made a little pattern that repeated every 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. They said, now that's got to divide into how many warp pairs you have. So what is a warp pair? Well, you count every 2 strands, you know what a pair is.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were playing dice or something in cards, you know what a pair was. So that has to divide in there. And so the kids would have to, I got a worksheet where they show me how wide your pattern is, how many warp pairs, show me that division. So they have to do a division problem, 3 into 96 or whatever it is. So they have to show that to me. But after a while, some of the kids could look at it and say, okay, that would work. I mean, they could do the division in their head and maybe take longer for them to write it out than they could do it in their head. And the kids would come up with designs that were just like, I was working with this set of, our class was divided by that time for the girls had come in there with weaving and the boys go to the shop class because it's good to separate boys and girls at junior high.
Yeah.
Which it works better. The kids are, whatever they do, so it's, and the kids would say, make their designs and show me it worked. And then this one girl said, I'm going to make a city skyline or trees or something. And I said, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know. She just started doing this, and it did look exactly like a set of trees in the background. I said, how'd you do that? She said, I don't know. Because they learn mathematics and learn numbers before, that's maybe the first thing they learn. That they can't count to 10, but they know there's toes there. They can't count to 10, but they know where their thumb goes in the mouth. Whatever it was, they know these things already, and that's probably their first touch with the world is numbers. Feeling something, counting something, realizing something is round, something is square. You don't have to measure the angles in it or anything, but they know that there's a shape there, and so that's their first invitation, or I guess induction into mathematics. It's just all around them all the time. And we have to use that in teaching. We have to use that so the kids can rely on something they know. I mean, if you have to, I had these kids who would do the multiplication, they would put their heads down and they would go like this and go on their hands. And I said, I didn't say you can't count on your hands and do it, because that's what they were doing. They were doing their math by kind of hiding on our table like they were taught, don't show that you have to use your fingers and hands. That's where we start with it, fingers and hands.
Yeah.
That's what we have to use. I know adults that still code something on their hands to do some simple division or to figure out the tip in a restaurant, how much they look down, and so they come up with that and they do that. And they're used to it. And why deprive children of that advantage of using the world around you to do something? Teaching math and we can't really teach math if we don't love the math to start with as a teacher. We have to. That's like any subject you're going to work with. You got to like what you're doing and really show that the students that you like what you're doing, and maybe they'll like it. And I've had some people come up to me in the last couple of months or years and said, "You're my geometry teacher," And I said, I looked at, he was a gray-haired guy, and I thought, this old guy, I was his teacher. It's like, okay. I didn't remember him at all, but he remembered me. And I saw another guy come up and he said, he was kind of looked really different than when he was in high school, of course. I could see what kind of life he had, I could see how worn his face was. And says, I never really liked math or algebra until we had that class. You had an algebra class. So well, I remember you, Jim. You were such a good student. You really enjoyed it and liked it. He says, well, that was because of you, Dennis. You did that. I was going to say, oh, I'm sorry or something. But, it was really neat for people to say that, but it's, rewards of teaching are few and really far between sometimes. It's 20, 30 years later that someone says, hey, I really enjoyed your class and we learned so much. And I always want to say, how could you tell me back 30 or 40 years ago? Because they didn't realize it, I guess. They didn't realize what we had. So that's 96 strands wide,
That's
pair
beautiful.
or pairs wide.
Is there any special kind of yarns that you use when you make your bags?
I would prefer to use some nice wool yarns if I could, but wool yarns you can get a skein of regular yarn that's pennies are made from $3 or $4 for a nice new skein of yarn, and as much yarn as you want to probably use. And if you want to get the same amount of wool, you probably have to spend $20 per skein.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how many people can spend $20 on a skein of yarn. Some people can, and they look at me, well, why can't you do that? This is, why would I want to do that? Because I never did it. I never spend that much. Sometimes I go buy some yarn, or somebody really wants a nice one with certain wools or something like that.
Yeah.
If I had some llama out in the back, I'd probably be working on pulling the hair off them. And
We'll have to invite you out to the farm and have
make
some
make
sheep wool over there.
wool from nice llamas that have been in this part of the world for a long time, I guess.
Yeah.
I would guess the people in South America, they had some nice yarn. They made some nice material, I bet, from the llamas.
So is there any place you get your designs from, or do you think of them yourself?
I used to look at, I learned actually from a book how to do this. Ojibwe crafts book. It's a BIA book or Department of something. Anyhow, there's some pictures in there of construction of it. It's kind of like two sticks. This is my loom. And so a long time ago, they took a couple of sticks, stuck it in the ground, and put a piece of twine around it, and put some warp threads on it, and started weaving. And that's kind of like the picture in that book. So I didn't want to carry the yarn. I didn't want to do that because I ain't that kind of guy. I'm not that much really good in the woods and that. So I figured, well, if I made some simple thing that I could put two sticks in and get somebody to drill some holes in there fairly evenly. And so I drill holes in this evenly, and you can measure them out, like 2 inches between or 2.5 inches between the centers of each of these. And yeah, this is my loom for making the yarn bags. And it's portable. I can just take these dowels out and carry the rest of it and go someplace and make it. So actually I saw the designs in the Ojibwe crafts book, and I thought, well, I like to make that pattern. So what I did was, my first patterns were, there was a little 3x5 picture of a yarn bag in a book, and I got a magnifying glass and counted the number of warp threads I use in each pattern. I thought, wow, that's all it is. It's this pattern here that repeats itself. It's on the warp pairs. I counted the total number of warp pairs. I counted them all, looking at it, counting them. And I figured, oh, that's just, that number divides the other number, of course. I said, there has to do that. And so the people a long time ago, they knew these things too. They didn't understand or had never heard of what I said was the fundamental theorem of arithmetic, which is that every number is expression of primes. Because they didn't have that theory or anything, but they knew that numbers fit in, that things fit in there. And so that they made their designs that way. And it's like, wow, that's such a natural way. Why, if our people can make these designs, and these yarn bags or woven bags, they're not new. I mean, these are fairly new, but they are not a new creation. They're not a new art. I got a call from one of the curators or someone at the Milwaukee Museum. It's a big museum that they have a lot of wool. I mean, a lot of bags and weavings that they promised I could see them sometime. I'd like to go and see them. And she said that she was convinced that the clay pots that she studies, this archaeologist studied little shards of a broken clay pot. She said, I'm convinced that some of those clay pots were molded into a pattern, and the pattern was some kind of woven bag that they placed the clay inside and pushed it out to the edge, because she could see some of those pieces of the weaving on the clay pots that survived. Because whatever fiber was there dissolved a long time ago or was eaten up or whatever it was, but the clay survived. And she said that. So she is convinced that the bags, these kind of bags that are valued today, they were made at least 8,000 years ago. 8,000, she figured that's the oldest one of the clay pots that she worked with, maybe. And she said, I know that one was placed inside a woven bag, and the pattern was pushed out. And that's what you take the bag off and you got your pattern. So she was convinced of that.
Nice.
At least that was so. So my designs are largely now they're my own designs. That this one here is a really nice one that one of my cousins owned it. One of our aunties, where my cousin and we share aunties, and she said, "Okay, could you take a look at this and see if you could fix it for me?" I looked at it and I said, "Oh yeah, I could fix it. I could repair all that part and repair any part that's on here. I know what to do." I was eventually told later on that this made about 1920 or 1930. Don't fix it up because it's going to be a treasure someday. That's made 100 years ago pretty soon. And these designs on here are ones I use. This design right here, that's on here, is kind of reflected on here, kind of.
Yes.
There's only so many designs. This thing is, I like the way that she made flowers out of hexagons, all hexagons. Even the center is hexagon. Each of the petals is hexagon, and the flowers, there's 6 petals around it. And lo and behold, this is what I'm coming up with on this one. These are tops of flowers.
Okay.
And they're modern yarn. Some fairly nice wool yarn try to use on this one. But my goal is someday to make one for myself. But by the time I get it done, somebody else likes it. It's like, okay, I guess it's yours. Each of my daughters have a couple each, so I think Toyo must have a couple at least. So So this is the neatest design that's coming in here. It's
That's
going to
nice.
be kind of like this one, this design here, but instead of these two colors. Most of the times the patterns are two colors because it's easier to work with two colors when you're weaving this. Sometimes you can put three colors in there, which I kind of like to do, like to add another color.
Yeah.
But each color you add increases the difficulty. You'd say exponentially. I would say maybe you would say, but it increases it exponentially. Like 2 goes to 4, 4 goes to 8, 8 goes to 16, 16 to 32. That's exponential. It goes up like this, rapidly. A number of colors you use in design increases exponentially, increases rapidly. And this is one of Cleo's dance bags, and it has this same design on it. The hexagon there and here.
Oh, nice. That's that same flower.
Same flower, yep.
Yeah.
Same flower. It's a great design. And it's in these weavings, all that I saw. I went to the Smithsonian. Seems like not too long ago, but it's getting further and further back there. I think 2009 I went there and I looked at every yarn bag and every woven sash they had in the museum. Looked at them, took notes on them. By the end of the time, I said, these are not any more difficult than what I do.
Right.
And what I do is a little better. I could say it's a little better because when they would come to the end of their weaving, they would just keep on going on the row. But nobody showed me that how the ends look like because they put it on the end so you can't see it.
Uh-huh.
So, and what I do is I make that row that's coming through join the other row so that they fit together snugly.
Right.
And not jump when they get to the end. There's a little jump in it. Most of the time that's hidden. Either something hides it with like a woven strap or something hides it, or just put it on the edge and you won't see it. You won't see that it changes right there. But none of mine do that, so that's my contribution to it. This design is fairly modern because it has a part to it that's buckskin, and this part of the bottom is woven differently. I've met only one person here that did the yarn bags. She was the best. She was absolutely the best. Her pictures on the wall and in the hallway. Liz was really good at making it. She didn't need a loom like that anymore. She'd get up and she'd start feeling it and she'd make it just from sitting on her lap. And I thought, wow, it takes her 7 years to get that far. I said, I'll never make it that far. So she used to make them. And even though these designs are similar, I had to change the pattern because I ran out of that color.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've used all kinds of material. This one is made from tapestry yarn.
Okay.
You can see the symmetry in there, and all the designs these are all kind of neat. It's all just parallelograms, and they fit together like parallelograms like each other, right? They
Yes.
fit together pretty nice.
Yeah.
So this little bag is I don't know, I can't remember anymore. Probably one of Cleo's. I can't remember. So it's meant to be it was originally meant to be a cell phone bag.
Oh.
My daughter she wanted to be have a bag for her cell phone.
Uh-huh.
And I'd like to have her put a frog on it or something. I said, okay. Take a deep breath. So I've never, because all the old patterns are just geometric designs.
Yep.
There was never a frog or anything on any of them that I can recall. But I figured out how to make the frog in there. And so I did that for her. And next she came up with something different. And okay, well, I think I can do that.
That's
So
cool.
makeup design.
So this last year, you were part of the Native Arts program, and you were able to teach your sashes to students here at the university.
Oh, yeah. That was a great time. That was really good. I'm going to do that again. So Head Start, they're asking me to come and teach them how to make some yarn bags. So
Nice.
I want to do that this starting in May now. I think
Okay.
it took 2 years to get going.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. All these the sashes behind me are all that I've, not all, certainly, probably done at least 10 times as many as these, you know. And most of them I used to make, it was for giveaway. I'd make, I got Big Drum coming up, so I'm going to make a couple at least and make some to give away. Because my mom told me when you're in Big Drum, you're supposed to make things to give away. Now people run down to the 5 and dime store or those fast stores they go to and get up some plastic things. They get up those things. We're supposed to have made those things. I mean, I don't know anybody who makes plastic. Maybe there's got to be people because there's so much around, but I don't know anybody who does that.
So do you have a vision of the future of continuing your bags? Do you think they'll continue now? Or
I think so. I firmly believe it will. I had one of my students at LCO school here at college. I had a weaving class at night. I tried to do both, teach them how to make the belts and then the sashes and the yarn bags. I tried to teach them both within a 16-week period. And eventually I figured that's not enough time to do both. You got to take one course, do it, and then there's enough people learning and knowing that I could eventually do an advanced course in it, and people would should or would. I don't think they'll flock from all over the country, but they might come see what we're doing. So they really enjoy it. And I had one of my students at evening class. She was all done with the course and asked me if I could. She would mind if I used my instructions to teach a course. She was an art teacher in Hayward. She was not a native person, but she was learned how to respectfully make all the stuff that I do. And so she figured out she made some looms for her class, and she teaches yarn bag making in Hayward. So some kids come and say, "Oh, I know how to do that." I says, "Well, that's you got to learn more than that to go. I want to know."
Yeah.
So, but it's going to survive. It will survive. We will have people that will learn it. That I'm teaching the teachers at also Head Start, so they'll learn it and maybe pass it on to somebody else. It's the whole thing. You teach someone how to do something, and they can have that for a long time. But you teach a teacher how to do something, and that'll expand. Teacher do something. You're teaching a known number of people. Teaching one person, that one person how to do it.
Yeah.
But if you teach a teacher how to do something, then that's the way to pass it on to people. But I'm really happy people can learn it and pass it on and learn more and teach more and make more. Let's see.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. We kind of went a little bit long, but it's important that your story gets out there, and I want to thank you for everything you shared with us today, and thank you for continuing to teach people how to do your artwork and pass along this art form. I think it's important.
I didn't realize I had a frog with me.
Oh, there's the frog. Yes, he's beautiful.
Does that look like a little frog?
Yeah, I see the frogs everywhere.
And this one is kind of light, but advances into the, it's like a true frog. It advances into the water. Like you don't see it unless you look like closely at it.
That's cool.
So that's my daughter saying, I wish I had a frog design. Okay, let me see what I can do.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Big witch.